we're going to get into our interview for the day. It's Kristen Siapas, chair of the GE CPIC. Welcome, Kristen.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. First question is, what is GE CPIC?
Well, that's GECPIC, Robert. You haven't heard of us. GECPIC is the Greater Essex County Parent Involvement Committee, and we're a committee of the board for the public board here in Windsor, the Greater Essex County District School Board. And we're comprised of a group of parents that represent parents throughout the region, throughout Windsor, Essex. There's 13 of us on the committee, and I've acted as chair. This is my third year. And so we provide meaningful feedback to the board about the kind of barriers that face parents, the type of things that are barriers to parent engagement, and how we can improve on that. And we've done things like held conferences for parents in the past. We held the GECPIC Plus conference last year. We meet a few times throughout the year and gather to talk about education and how parents can be more engaged with it. So it's a really important thing, I think, that we're doing right now because of the situation that we're in with the pandemic and learning at home and all of those challenges that are facing us now.
Well, before we get into the schooling, how are you and your family doing during the pandemic?
Well, it has been an interesting transition, that's for sure. So my kids are 5, 7, 9, and 12. And when we started, they were 5, 7, 9, and 11. So we did have a birthday over the course of the pandemic as well. It has been really interesting to see. In a lot of ways, I feel like I'm lucky that I have 4 at home because they have a lot of social interaction amongst each other. I think it's a very different situation if you have just one kid at home. But I've noticed over the course of the several weeks that we've been home now, there's been several different shifts in phases. When we first came home, we were on March break. There wasn't a lot of pressure to incorporate learning. And then, as we kind of started to come back, I was inventing things for them to do and trying to do some online learning and some home learning myself. In the meantime, my husband and I are both working full time. So trying to incorporate that schedule into what we're doing as we're struggling to redefine what it means to work from home. It's been a really steep learning curve for everyone. And then, of course, the school and the school board, the teachers and the Ministry of Education have all provided supports for learning at home. So there was a bit of a curve where we're trying to navigate that process. What kind of resources are out there? How do we incorporate that into what we're doing? Who do we turn to when we have questions about these things? And then I found that we kind of started to fall into like a little more of a regular routine. And now that the weather's nice, nobody wants to do any schoolwork, and we've got to do some, we're still working from home and trying to battle and balance that with the kids and get them outside a little bit. It's been really interesting. I said to my husband, I have 5 wishes for my family. I want to make sure they get a little schoolwork done. I want to make sure they get a little outside time. I want to make sure that they do, a little housework, keep up with their chores and stuff like that. I'd like to make sure that they eat at some point during the day. And, I'd like it if everybody wore pants. So if we can get up and we can get dressed and we can maybe do a little schoolwork and have a little bite to eat together, that's a successful day in my opinion. And trying to figure out what kind of schedule works for us has been challenging, and there's been some change to that as we've gone along. So I can't imagine. I know every family is experiencing this pandemic and learning at home in a different way, and it's impacted everyone. Everyone has had to try and figure out what works best for them, and that's a different thing for each family, I think.
And that kind of leads in, how has the closing of the schools affected your children's loss of social interaction with their fellow students and friends and teachers?
Yeah, I think, I've noticed how the school board has responded to learning at home and how we're all kind of navigating this process together. When it first started, within the first couple of weeks of learning at home, there weren't a lot of supports beyond, stuff that was posted online. You could access supports online, but there wasn't a lot of personal interaction right away. And then when we first started, there were phone calls from the teachers to kind of get us started. And now we're moving into a space where teachers are getting more fluent with the technology, and the board is able to communicate to teachers, I think, more what specifically needs to happen over technology, that kind of thing. And that kind of research is ongoing. So the type of interaction that we're able to have is so much more positive now than it was 10 weeks ago, because we're getting more of that social interaction with peers, with like Microsoft Teams meetings where maybe 3 or 4 students will meet together with a teacher. And we really enjoy that. But then that might not work for all families. Like we're looking at now, there's still a big gap in technology. Not all families are engaging with learning using technology, so they don't have that digital social interaction. So there's questions about, how do we support those families at that time? How do we figure out how to support their social needs? Personally, like I say, I can send my 4 kids out in the backyard and they all play together and they're learning all kinds of new things about their relationships. And the group dynamics that already exist among those siblings. But I think it's hard for them that they haven't seen their friends. It's been now the length of an entire summer vacation. So, where sometimes you take a break over summer vacation and you don't see your friends over that whole 8-10 week period. But now you can tell it's sort of like, oh, remember my friend from grade 2? I'd really like to see that person again. So having those things when we do get a chance to meet online with teachers and with other classmates, that's been a really big benefit to them, for that social thing as well.
Yeah. With the schools being closed, do you think technology and the online teaching has been sufficient for the elementary school students?
Whether it's for elementary or for secondary, I don't think that there's going to be one solution that works for everyone. I don't think that you can necessarily say, we are moving classes online, we're providing access to teachers using this technology, and we fixed it. I think that the technology that they're using right now isn't going to be sufficient for all families. And, there are things coming out right now, like the school board has put out a parent survey that they're just starting to collect some of the information that they've received doing this survey, and it's really encouraging to see that kind of data being collected. And I know there's still a lot in the works where they're turning to parents at this time and saying, what's working for you? What's not working for you? Does it work best to have a lot of communication through the board? Does it work best if we just scale back the communication? Do you feel like it's too much at this time? And so I don't think we have any hard and fast answers to that. And I think what's coming out of that is that there's a great diversity of responses. Some people need more, some people need less, some people haven't had access to technology at all. So the online learning isn't working for them because they don't have access to technology. Say they don't have Wi-Fi at home, or they aren't fluent in using the software or whatever. Like there's so much to navigate that I think it's going to take a long time before we really figure out what works best for everybody. And I applaud the school board, and there's also been some ministry consultation as well with parents that I've been able to be a part of, and seeing that kind of thing come forward is really encouraging. Especially, I think the message to parents is that, it's not perfect. You're probably frustrated. I know, like, even myself, we're trying to make it through, we're trying to figure it out, but it is, there are days where I feel like I'm drowning. It's insane. Like trying to manage a house and a job and the kids and to figure out all the different needs from 4 different teachers that are all giving my kids 4 different assignments. And even though I have technology at home, I feel very lucky that I have technology at home. I'm able to work from home. I'm not considered an essential worker that has to be out of the house. So I've been able to balance that a little bit that way. There are so many different challenges facing families right now that it's going to take a little while to unravel this one, I think.
I think there's a lot of stress out there. I think that teachers now have become much more valued because we see what they actually do. But the pandemic came upon us pretty quickly. Do you think the procedures are in place in case there is? The big thing with this is the whole uncertainty of it. Will there be fall online teaching once again? Do you think if that is the case, we'll be prepared for it?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It's not just trying to figure out where we are, but trying to figure out where to go next. And I think, the summer, knowing that we normally have a break over the summer kind of buys us a little bit of time to figure it out. Although, as the ministry has said, summer learning will continue. There will be opportunities to continue summer learning, and hopefully more supports for families with children with special needs, or with mental health supports, that kind of thing. Like, I feel really optimistic about the things that we're seeing coming forward from the ministry. I think that we have to acknowledge that there's an urgency to it. That we're approaching the end of the year and we still don't have a straight answer about the fall. Whereas you look at some of the other, for example, post-secondary institutions, a lot of them have already come out to say, we're doing online learning in the fall. We're not going to have students on campus. Now, they're talking about a completely different thing and a completely different scale. But when I look at that and go, okay, well, we're not going to have students in classes in the universities. Are we going to have students in classes in actual schools in the fall for elementary, for secondary? And what does that mean for students who are graduating? I think we don't have answers to a lot of those questions, and I'm sure that parents and students really feel frustrated about that. And I think honestly that they've got to make a call and they've got to make a plan, and hopefully with all of the consultation that they're doing with parents right now, we'll see a plan that responds to the needs that are being communicated. And like I said, you're seeing such a different, when you imagine the experience of a parent who has one child who is an essential worker, who lives in a big city, who maybe has Wi-Fi at home but isn't able to sit next to their child to do the work, compared to a parent that is living in a rural community that doesn't have access to Wi-Fi but is able to do at-home learning with their child. There's just such a diversity of different variables there that we have to take into account. And I'm really hoping that the consultation that's happening will feed into that, and we'll see a comprehensive plan that either sends kids back to school in a safe way, because that safety question is the number one parent concern. But hopefully we'll be able to take some of the information we have and incorporate that into that plan. I'm really hopeful about that. And I do want to say, one of the prevailing things that has come out in my conversations with other parents and with my conversations with school board and stuff like that, is that teachers are the ones making the difference. And just as you said, we're all kind of in this learning curve. It's been a really steep learning curve to try and figure out how to support and deliver education during this pandemic. The thing that we're learning, and that I think we all know in our hearts, is that teachers are the ones that are making the difference. They are the ones making individual contact with families, with students. They're able to address the needs of students. They're able to support both their learning and to communicate some of their needs to other places. And just as you said, we're learning that teachers' jobs are so much more than just delivering a lesson. They give our families so much more support, and I think appreciation for teachers has got to be through the roof at this point. I think we all really appreciate those teachers that are going above and beyond, as they always do, to take care of our kids and to take care of not just their education but their well-being.
Yeah. Well, we're right out of time. However, ending on a hopeful note, what are you looking forward to once the pandemic is over?
You know what? I am looking forward to being able to take my kids places and just enjoy. As we're coming up on the summer season, the festival season, I just want to take the kids down to the riverfront and have fun at one of the festivals and have food and get out there with our friends and go swimming and enjoy the summer. I think we're going to miss that this year. And that's going to be something I'm really looking forward to, getting back together with them and getting out there.
Well, thank you for your time, Kristen. Thanks for joining us. Please, for you and your family, stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.